Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. And this is your transit for Jupiter entering into the sign of Pisces. We will see this on April 13th. This is Jupiter entering into its own sign. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Up on the screen here is the transit for Jupiter in the sign of Pisces. And as we can see here, as Jupiter starts off this transit, it will come into a conjunction with the Sun. This is the Sun finishing out in the sign of Pisces before shifting ahead into the sign of Aries. Jupiter entering here into Pisces is coming into its own sign once again. It feels very comfortable here. Now, Jupiter is actually mula tricone in Sagittarius, so it feels more comfortable in the sign of Sagittarius. But here in Pisces, this is especially a place of retreat for Jupiter. This is all about spirituality, going inward, taking your time to tap into your higher power. So this is a great transit for spirituality. This is a great transit for meditation, for taking that time to deeply understand yourself and to look within. This is a very meditative time where a lot can come to you through your dreams. A lot can come to you through very subtle signs and messages at this time if you are tapping into this Jupiter Pisces transit. This also can be a very fortunate transit where there is a lot of luck and blessings coming into your life as well. This is definitely a time where Jupiter feels more comfortable with this ability to watch over and to be more in this benevolent energy where it is protecting us, it is guiding us, it is supporting us. This is an excellent time to be generous, to be compassionate, to be focused on healing, serving, helping others. So this is primarily what is happening here with this Jupiter Pisces. This also is a very knowledgeable position where this is a great time for any kind of studies, especially that are involved in spirituality and metaphysics. Jupiter is a little bit frustrated though as it comes initially into this transit of Pisces, as it's going to be in between two malefics. We have Mars that is going to sit behind Jupiter and Rahu that is there in front of Jupiter. So Jupiter is definitely feeling trapped between these malefic influences, which can definitely bring about a lot of frustration and difficulty with Jupiter initially as it comes into this transit. Jupiter will spend a great amount of time here in Pisces, though, where we will see this even into next April of 2023. And in between, we'll see Jupiter retrograde, but it will retrograde back into its own nakshatra still. So a lot of blessings and opportunities that Jupiter definitely can bring to us through our spiritual process, through our journey inward at this time. Saturn is going to be aspecting over to Jupiter as well as we step into this transit. Saturn, though, is happy in its own sign and is supporting this transit here of Jupiter. This definitely can be a time of, again, getting a lot of deep wisdom and insight. Something that we're also going to see, though, is that Saturn is going to switch over into its mula tricone sign as well. So we have a lot that is aligning here as Jupiter is coming into its own sign. And of course, the only big frustration here is this Rahu that is sitting there in Aries, where, again, there is a little bit of a selfishness, a little bit of a focus on our own desires, our own journey as individuals, and some of us needing to tone this down a little bit and to be more focused on the higher mission, the higher purpose of your compassion and generosity and coming together, which Jupiter is supporting very well here in the sign of Pisces. But this especially is a time, again, to go inward, to go into that retreat, that reflection where you can gain some greater insight, some deeper understanding on a spiritual level. And so for those of you who are agitated, especially in your relationships and your connections and the things that are happening around you, this is an excellent time to go into meditation, to seek some guidance. This could also be a time of going on some sort of retreat or journey. However, this Jupiter Pisces mostly is about retreating inward, this spiritual journey that we're taking within. So let's go ahead and jump into this transit for each of your zodiac signs. And I want to remind you all once again that I am using Vedic astrology, which uses the sidereal zodiac. So this is not going to be according to your Western tropical signs. There's a calculator down below if you're unfamiliar with what your sidereal zodiac signs are. Another disclaimer is that this is not using your sun sign when we go through these horoscopes. This will be according to your moon sign or your ascendant sign. The ascendant really is the map of your life. It maps out all of your karmic lessons and everything that you have to do in this lifetime. The moon also is representing your entire life, including your physical body, how you're interacting with others, and what is happening inside your mind. So those are the primary areas where we're going to see these transits play out for many of us. The sun is primarily your soul. That is who you are and what your purpose is. That is separate from this actual path or journey that we're taking here in this physical lifetime, and the sun is more of a spiritual aspect. So very important that you're looking at these transits according to your moon sign or your ascendant sign. And I recommend to look at both of them, as the moon is going to give you an internal view of how these transits are going to affect you on a personal level. And that rising sign is going to show you how it's going to play out in terms of the different lessons that you will go through in your life. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. For those of you with an Aries moon or Aries ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting back into your 12th house. And so this is definitely a time of meditation, of going inward, of taking that time out to yourself. A lot that you can learn in isolation at this time, a lot that you could learn on some sort of trip or journey away from your daily environment with this Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is going to be in conjunction with your fifth lord as it comes into this position here of Pisces for a very short time before the sun shifts ahead into your first house. And so definitely there can be a lot that is coming to you in terms of clarity and insight at a deeper level here. This can be an excellent time for you to tap into any sort of spiritual practices, any sort of religious practices, as Jupiter is controlling that ninth house as well. And so remembering that that ninth house is the Mula-Trikona house of Jupiter, for those of you with an Aries moon, Aries ascendant, that this is especially an excellent time of any kind of studying, any sort of practice that you're doing that involves retreating, isolating, going inward with this transit. Now, Jupiter is going to aspect your 5th and 9th house, which especially, again, lights up any sort of mantras, spiritual practices, meditations, any kind of spiritual routines that you can add into your life. This is definitely a time for those of you who are having challenges in your personal life to take some time out for yourself to find that sense of peace and clarity. Saturn is sitting there in your 10th house, making the aspect over to Jupiter. And so this especially is putting a spotlight on the challenges or difficulties that you may have come across there in your career, where there could be some slowness, some difficulty with receiving the results that you want right away. And so this is definitely a time of going inward, finding a sense of clarity that can actually help you in terms of moving forward with your career success. So some of you even taking some time out away from your career to develop some sort of skill or knowledge base that you can use to apply then to your career success. And again, Jupiter, as it starts off here, at first in this transit is going to feel very uncomfortable between Mars and Rahu. Mars is your chart ruler, of course, as it's gone into this 11th house. This is an excellent time for helping others, for doing any kind of charity donation at this time. This can really support you through actually supporting and helping others with this 11th house being activated. Rahu in that first house, of course, can make you very much focused on yourself, and there can be this false illusion of actually getting into selfishness, getting into ego with this Rahu coming into the first house. So don't forget there that Ketu is there in that 7th house, and that this is an excellent time for giving, for helping, for making an impact on others. For those of you with a Taurus moon or Taurus ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting back into your 11th house. And so this especially can open you up to some new people coming into your life, foreign people potentially coming in, and also teachers and guides that can come in. Elders can give you some advice at this time, elder siblings for some of you. This Jupiter really is putting a spotlight here on this 11th house. Now keep in mind with Jupiter coming into this 11th house that Jupiter is a little bit of a tricky placement for those of you with a Taurus moon, Taurus ascendant, as it is controlling that 8th house and now the 11th house, where you could see some fluctuations in your gains, in your expenses. This is definitely a time to be mindful of this area and to save and to take your time in terms of your wealth. This Jupiter in this 11th house definitely could give you some great advice on how to increase your prospects. Also, with that 8th house and 11th house being huge money houses, this is a great time, though, to really take your time to be more spiritual, more mindful, more present in your life with this Jupiter transit. For those of you with a Gemini moon, Gemini ascendant, this will be Jupiter shifting into your 10th house of career. Excellent position. Jupiter here trying to give you a lot of opportunities, a lot to choose from. This can get a little bit confusing, but for most of you with Gemini moon, Gemini ascendant, especially, this is going to support you in your career focus. With Jupiter there in that 10th house, really broadening the outlook in terms of what you can do. Especially for those of you who have a Gemini moon, this can be a big time of needing to share your knowledge, your insight with the world, as Jupiter controls both that 7th and 10th house. This is a big time of supporting others, of giving others advice, of expressing and putting your knowledge out. So this is huge with this Jupiter transit. And of course, we have Saturn that is also making this aspect over to Jupiter from your 8th house. And so this can be a big time as you step into this transit where things can seem a little bit unstable at first, as this is shifting you into a new experience here. Again, Saturn is going to shift into its Mula Trikona house from this, and Saturn in the 8th house helps to stabilize your life as well. For those of you with a Cancer moon, Cancer ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting through your 9th house. Very auspicious placement. And Jupiter, of course, is a very auspicious planet for many of you, as it actually rules over this 9th house. This can give you some excellent mentors, advisors, coaches coming into your life, giving you excellent advice on how to move forward in your life. So this is great for you in terms of your path ahead and your development individually. This also can bring you some luck, some fortune in this area, where you can experience some great prosperity at this time if you are working towards any sort of studies, practices, anything where you're trying to develop your business, develop your skills. All of this can support you greatly with Jupiter in here. Jupiter definitely is in a very happy position for those of you with Cancer moon, Cancer ascendant. Remember, though, that stepping into this transit, it will be hemmed between two malefics. So this is a little bit challenging coming in this for the first time. And of course, we're just entering into this mean Rahu that is sitting here in your 10th house of career, where a lot can happen here career-wise, where this is trying to pull you in a new direction. Things can shift here in your career focus. For those of you with a Leo moon, Leo ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting through your 8th house. And so this is definitely a great time for spiritual practices, for going on spiritual journeys. This 8th house also is hugely connected to metaphysics, to spiritual progress. And so this is an excellent time to retreat, to go inward. And Jupiter, of course, is also benefiting any sort of spiritual practices for you as it controls your 8th and 5th house. And so this is excellent for all of those studies, practices, mantras, meditation. All of this can help you, and especially Jupiter can help you through any sort of ups and downs or challenges that you come across, as this 8th house is all about sudden changes. And so you can come across some knowledge, some wisdom. You can instill some spiritual practices in your life that can help you to transform and grow through this time. For those of you with a Virgo moon, Virgo ascendant, this will be Jupiter coming into your 7th house. This is a very prominent house, especially from the moon's position. You could find yourself meeting some new people during this Jupiter Pisces transit, some potential romantic interest coming in with Jupiter here in the 7th house. But this is definitely trying to broaden your horizons, trying to open you up to new opportunities as Jupiter comes in here. This can frustrate many of you a little bit though, as Jupiter is the ruler of your 7th house. This can be a bit frustrating to see this transit take place here, where Jupiter really is outside of your comfort zone as you are Mercury controlled. And so this definitely could be a time where you feel like this is a roller coaster, like there's a lot of new opportunities to manage, where you're used to kind of sticking to the details and managing the little aspects of your life. And so that can definitely bring about a little bit of stress or anxiety at this time, but this is definitely giving you a lot of great opportunities to take in. For those of you with a Libra moon, Libra ascendant, very tricky. And of course, this is a very difficult year for many of you with Libra moon, Libra ascendant. With this K2 transiting over your ascendant, this can be a time of great confusion. This can be a time of really going deeper on a spiritual level and getting a lot of insights that are very unfamiliar to you. This also could be a time of great isolation, going inward. Again, a lot of spiritual revelations can come to you at this time, but it can be very confusing or somehow detaching you from your reality outside yourself. This Rahu in the 7th house bring in a lot of unfamiliar people, a lot of unfamiliar situations to kind of expand your life at this time. Jupiter will be transiting through that 6th house of your chart, which can be a bit tricky there. Jupiter is in its own sign, though, where it is supporting you. This is a time where you can face some difficulties. Again, we talked a little bit about this Saturn and Mars coming up that can bring some challenges with children, with relationships coming up for many of you. But Jupiter in here, you want to pay close attention to your health, especially. Jupiter coming into this 6th house could definitely give you a bit of a sweet tooth. It could expand your palate a little bit where you are exploring different options, but you want to pay close attention to your health and digestion at this time. This Jupiter in the 6th house also could make you a little bit lazy. With this transit here, Jupiter, especially as it controls your 3rd and your 6th, can make you a little bit more idealistic, daydreamy, a little bit overly optimistic. So you want to pay close attention to different aspects of your personal everyday life, making sure that you're managing this properly. And many of you can get some great wisdom and insight as to how to do this and how to improve in these areas of your life. But again, very tricky transit here. This is excellent, though, for healing, for helping, for giving service. And you may find that many people are calling on you for help and support at this time, which could also be very draining, where some of you need to properly manage your energies, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure that you're taking care of your own needs. For those of you with a Scorpio moon, Scorpio ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting through your 5th house. This is a very positive transit as Jupiter comes in here. This can be excellent for your studies. This can be excellent for any kind of speculation. But again, this Jupiter Pisces is really about spirituality. And this 5th house is excellent for any kind of mantras, meditation, for taking that time to develop your studies, which can help you greatly in actually acquiring wealth and seeing some success, as Jupiter also controls your 2nd house. It's a very beneficial transit for many of you. You don't want to overdo it in this area of fun and recreation, though, taking too many risks with this Jupiter transit. For those of you with a Sagittarius moon or Sagittarius ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting through your fourth house. And Jupiter, of course, controls your first and fourth house. This is a very happy transit for many of you. Jupiter coming into this fourth house can bring you a lot of happiness and a lot of peace and comfort in your life. And especially for those of you who are more so going to be going into spirituality, going into isolation, this Jupiter definitely is bringing you back into the home environment where you can find a lot of peace and happiness here in this area. For those of you with a Capricorn moon, Capricorn ascendant, very interesting transit. Jupiter is going to be going through your third house. And of course, Jupiter is not a great friend to your chart ruler Saturn. And so as Jupiter comes to this third house, you could find yourself running into a little bit of competition, disagreements, things popping up in your friend circle, especially for some of you at this time. So you want to be cautious of this and pay very close attention to everything that is unfolding at this time. This is definitely a time where you could find yourself retreating a little bit more, as Jupiter also is controlling that 12th house of your chart. So this could take you into isolation, this could take you into deep contemplation, but you want to not overthink and get stuck into a lot of anxiety at this time. This is definitely a time to pace yourself to make sure that you are meditating, taking care of all of your needs. With all of this energy that's increasing, there is a ton of mental activity happening with this Jupiter coming into the third. This also could open you up to a lot of opportunities, but again, many of these opportunities can require a great deal of energy, of a competitive spirit, of courage. So this is definitely a time where you want to be a little bit more open and more optimistic in your approach to life. For those of you with an Aquarius moon, Aquarius ascendant, this will be Jupiter transiting here through your second house. And so this could definitely make you very confident, very much outgoing, wanting to express yourself a little bit more. This could get you interested in your family background, also exploring your ancestry, wanting to know more in this area in particular. So this is excellent for you actually expanding your speech and your ability to make an impact through your ideas, through everything that you're trying to convey and express. You could see a huge confidence boost at this time. Jupiter, as it aspects over to that 8th house, could also bring out a lot of traditional knowledge, a lot of esoteric knowledge that you could use at this time. So definitely this is taking you into spirituality. This is taking you into deep reflection at this time. And this can also expand your friend circle. Once again, Jupiter is in that second house, giving you this confidence boost in the way that you're speaking, coming across, making you very charismatic, very humorous in the way that you're expressing yourself. But this Jupiter also is controlling your 11th house of your social groups and gatherings. So you could find yourself being more social, wanting to join in some niches and groups at this time. This Jupiter is also once again receiving an aspect over from your chart ruler, which is sitting behind you in that 12th house. And so this can definitely be, again, a time of going back into retreat, going back into yourself to find some clarity and understanding. But we're going to see this Saturn shift out of this 12th house very soon here, coming into your first house, the Mula-Trigona house, where it's going to give you a ton of strength. So this is excellent for you in terms of moving forward with your success, expressing yourself, making an impact on others. For those of you with a Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant, this will be Jupiter coming into your first house. And Jupiter feels very comfortable here. Of course, this is its own sign and your very own chart ruler. So Jupiter is coming here into this first house, really making you more adventurous, more open, more ready for new opportunities, more confident and expressive. With Jupiter coming in here, you can be more carefree and lighthearted for some of you who are a little bit more quiet quiet and closed off. This Jupiter really expanding your personality and bringing a lot of opportunities to you at this time. So this is definitely a very positive transit. This also could take you into deep reflection too. You could find yourself wanting a lot of spaciousness where you are connecting to people but not wanting to be stuck in any sort of commitments or attachments. This definitely is making you open to different possibilities and wanting to explore as much as possible. This Saturn, of course, is going to leave your 11th house very soon also, which can take the pressure off of this area that is involved with your friend circles, where there could be a little bit of a hamper there with Saturn in that 11th house. So this Jupiter really is helping to support you at this time with really opening up. Now, you want to be careful with Rahu that is now here in your second house. In terms of spending, you want to make sure that you are managing your finances and resources properly. This could definitely lead you to overspending and going overboard in terms of the things that you want to purchase and bring into your life. This also could give you a little bit of a harsh speech with Rahu in the second house. So as you are expanding, as you are opening up to these different opportunities, you also want to be mindful of how you are speaking and coming across to others.